All right, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the January 20th, 2026 meeting of the Public Works and Sustainability Committee to order. We do have all three members of the committee present. Just two items on the agenda this evening. First, approval of the minutes from the October 13th, 2025 meeting of the Public Works and Sustainability Committee. I'll make a motion to approve. Can I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item, Resolution 2026-01. This is in regards to submerged land lease that a resident is acquiring for some work for stabilizing their their yard and property. I believe we're going to hear from members of the administration today, so I will turn it over to, is it Mr. Papke, Director Gordon, or Director Vargo? Who wants to go first?
I guess I'll go.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Good evening. The submerged land lease is for the Krebs property located at 1040 Forest Cliff Drive. So they want to do some revetment work along the bluff of their property, and also includes a tower with a proposed crib pier. This one that's before us was a little bit unusual because we do have an outfall that extends off of the Krebs property. So we did a lot of discussions with ODNR on this submerged land lease because, you know, for one, we didn't want to stop the Krebs from doing, you know, any improvements to their property and you know, trying to stop the erosion. But on the other hand, you know, we have to protect our interest in our outfall that's there in case, you know, we have to get in there and do any work. So in doing some thorough research and that, we don't have any, we never had any easements for the outfall or the storm line that goes through the property. So we worked with ODNR, the Krebs, and our consultant that does all of our coastal engineering, and we obtained an easement on their property, both upland and within this submerged land lease area to protect the city's interests, as well as being able to provide them their submerged land lease so that they could properly do their stone revetment and their project. So what you have before you is a submerged land lease that references this recorded easement that has, you know, we work with the law department as well to craft the permanent storm easement that references the submerged land lease as well, that area that will provide the city, you know, future access, maintenance, and that if in the future we need to do any improvements to our storm outfall.
Done these before in the past for this very reason. This is the first time we worked with one where there was an outfall. It's like our first go at this, where we had a.
Yeah, this is the first one that there's an outfall on the property that is there. And actually, ODNR, this was something new for them too, with the private property being there. So, you know, we worked all collectively together to make sure that we got this right.
And I'll just, one more thing, and I'll turn it over to, unless anybody else from the administration has any comments. So everybody, like from the administration side, we're all satisfied with the work done here, that that'll serve the city well, the easement, and still be allowed the homeowner the autonomy to do their work?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments from the administration? Director Gordon, Director Vargo?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. Other than Ms. Swallow worked with Public Works and Mr. Papke on drafting the easement and getting clearance from ODNR. It was a process that took some time, months, but from the law standpoint, very satisfied with the terms of the easement.
Great, thank you, Director. Director Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yeah, I mean, just
just so everybody's aware that when we do bring it, to council's approval, when we do bring it before city council, at that point, rest assured that on my end, I'm making sure that everything is approved on our end with Mark and myself. And when we bring it to council, it is the final step. So at that point, it's met all approvals. Normally, it comes from the law department, but if we are going to give it to the law department to bring it to council, that all I's are dotted and T's are crossed on our end at that point.
Great, thank you. I'll turn it over to committee members first if you have any questions. None from the committee. Vice President Baker, do you have any questions or comments?
Sure, thank you, Chair. This is, so it looks like, we're getting a storm sewer easement over the back of their property where our infrastructure is, and then we have the right to access along the 25 feet of the property line. Is that roughly accurate?
Yeah, both upland and then within that submerged land lease area, the entire submerged land lease area that's identified as parcel 1 on the exhibit.
And so, and that's because it appears as though they're going to build basically a revetment out into the water to allow for basically sand and sediment to not, so that it kind of fortifies their property. Is that? That's kind of out of the scope of our easement, but just curious as to what the intention is.
Yeah, I mean, the stone revetment's really to, try to cease the wave action against, further eroding their property away. So actually, it benefits the city as well with their planned improvements there as well with that storm outfall.
Because it will help protect our storm outfall?
It will.
And is this a CSO or is this just a storm?
A storm.
So as far as like future maintenance, we don't see any kind of near-term need for access or maintenance?
At this time, no.
Okay. And then that's interesting. So how many stormwater pipes do we have under people's property that, I assume it actually happens often, that we have pretty deep pipes and maybe don't have recorded easements for them?
Yeah, I mean, we have like 58 outfalls along the bluff that are basically, identified as like 12-inch or larger. And
for most of those, we don't have recorded easements for, is that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these, put in the early 1900s, maybe even early 1800s. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a problem for me in my day job because a lot of other cities that adjoin Metro Parks property just have outfalls. And then they look at us and they're like, why aren't you fixing that outfall? That outfall doesn't serve us, it serves you, the city, so you should probably fix it. So I'm glad this seems, and thankful, the only reason I went to committee, at least because it was part of a big docket, I kind of wanted to understand the issue better, trust your guys' work. Looks like we protected the city in the sense that we have future access rights and also maintenance obligations associated with what is our infrastructure. And then we went through the process with ODNR. This homeowner is improving their property, improving their shoreline erosion. This looks good to me. Is Forest Cliff Drive one of those like private drives, or is it dedicated platted street for the city of Lakewood?
It's dedicated right away.
Okay. I have no other questions.
Anything else from members of council? Well, echo Councilman Baker's thanks to everybody for working so hard on this. It seemed like it was a tricky one, but now we have a system in place for the next time this happens, which I would imagine we'll be seeing more of these as the years go on, as trying to protect that shoreline that's, yes, been there for quite some time. So thanks to everybody. So with that, I will make a motion to...
Hey, Chair? Sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
Can I just do one it's just a general comment. I appreciate the directors both coming in and for scheduling this meeting, because I do think this also serves as an opportunity to educate the public as well. What does this mean? What are they doing? And all of that. I just think it's just a nice little educational piece. So I do appreciate taking the time to come out and educating the public and also educating myself as well. This has been very informative as well. So we know exactly what we're doing as a city and why it's important that we do these things. So thank you very much for taking the time, and thank you for other members of the committee for scheduling this and for Chair Evans.
Great point. Thanks, Councilwoman Steiner. I'll make a motion to refer this favorably back to all of council. Can I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Mr. Chair, discussion real fast.
Sure.
I thought of one question, just to the administration. Is this the property where there was a lot split and a new property was built on the split lot? And if I'm putting two and two together correctly, is that new construction work associated with the need to have a revetment at the base of the cliff, or that's just circumstantial?
No, I think you're thinking of maybe Erie Cliff.
Okay,
This is not.
not that at all. Okay, very good.
That property, no.
Okay, very good. Thanks. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, so the motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thanks again, everybody. There's no further business before this committee, so we'll adjourn.
I've got them already up. Yeah, I need to get a couple signatures. Gotta get a couple more signatures, but yeah, started. My skin will wander on for mine.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. I'm usually a numbers person, so words aren't so great. Thank you. Hey, Ernie, I saw Jen. I thought Jen.
Going to be here as well.
Oh, it's the double team with the law department, huh? So, John's story. He messed it all up. Like, our professional notes, we don't change the words in the, we just change the. He put a bunch of words in. I meant to tell Jen too. Call me. Yeah. All right, let's talk about important things. How do you feel about IU? Salty? Are you happy? IU, Ernie. You're happy? Okay. Okay. I didn't know Ohio State fan, Didn't like IU. Yeah. Oh, except did you see what he said? I've never seen Rudy, and I never will because I hate Notre Dame. So that's another reason for you to like. Is that what he said? Yeah, how long ago did he say that? I don't know. It was on one of my Notre Dame Facebook pages. Yeah. Probably because Notre Dame beat them last year. Probably. That's the last time. Last time Indiana lost, I think, which was just last year. So.
All right. Welcome, everyone. We'll call Committee of the Whole to order. I will first move to approve the minutes of the January 12th Committee of the Whole meeting without the necessity of a reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that motion passes. Okay, so tonight we have two communications from me on the docket, just really laying out kind of our the City Hall space considerations that we've been discussing. We'll be digging into more with the amended schedule in the upcoming weeks. But before we dive into that, so in the next few weeks, like I said, we expect to have in-depth conversations about City Hall space solution options and the specifics of the administration's proposal. Before we do that, I know I wanted to educate myself further on about the relevant terminology, best practices, and I thought many of us might feel the same way and benefit from either an introduction or, in some cases, a refresher, depending on our level of experience with this type of work. So we are facing a pretty monumental decision, and most of us are not professionals in the field like Vice President Baker is, or Councilman Evans has some experience in this. Some of us, this might be our first go-around with this. So tonight's session is intended to be a general high-level primer on public procurement, renovation, and construction 101, explanations of approaches such as design build, and defining terminology such as criteria architect, et cetera. It's not intended to be a review or discussion of the administration's specific proposal, but rather a general education session. So Vice President Baker and I connected with the professional organization Cogence Alliance and to ask for a third-party expert who might be able to provide us with this type of overview And we are very grateful to be joined tonight by Cogent's president and Lakewood resident, Carter Edmond. Mr. Edmond is also the vice president of the American Institute of Architects Cleveland chapter, and from 2017 to 2023, he served as the city architect for the city of Cleveland. Mr. Edmond has prepared a presentation, which we expect to be around 20 minutes, leaving us with an additional 20 minutes for questions. But we can also pause for questions on specific slides as needed. So with that, before I turn it over to Mr. Edmond, did anyone else have any preliminary remarks that you want to make? Or Vice President Baker, did I miss anything? Okay. No. Okay, good. Oh, Councilman Bullock.
I appreciate the step here to educate us and explain technical vocabulary. I was at a conference with engineers once, and they said, you know, we can never get through a meeting without a bunch of TLAs. And they said, what's TLAs? 3-letter acronym. So it comes with the territory. So thank you. It's a good idea. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Edmond.
Thank you, Madam President and members of council, and thanks for the opportunity to share this with you. And I want to commend you for reaching out and really being thoughtful about project delivery and how it affects capital projects, particularly for municipality. I want to acknowledge Sean McDermott, whom I think most of you know from Cleveland Metro Parks, who's one of the members of Cogent's Alliance and has been a pioneer in alternative and smart project delivery in the public sector in Ohio, and helped make this connection. So thank you, Sean. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about Cogent's Alliance, and then I'm going to get into project delivery. There's kind of a lot in here, and there's a lot of text in the slides. So you may want to, you may want to review these later. I'm sure they'll be available for everyone, and also I can be available for follow-up. If anything I say doesn't make sense or I use language that I don't adequately explain, please interrupt me. I can take questions throughout, and I'll try to be mindful of the time. So Cogent's Alliance is a nonprofit organization that brings together architects, owners, engineers, contractors, trade contractors, and allied professionals in a forum to discuss best practices for project delivery. It's the only organization like that that I know of, and it's the only place where you get these really frank discussions about the challenges that everybody in all the different disciplines around capital projects faces. I first came to Cogent's Alliance when I was the city architect for the city of Cleveland, and I found it incredibly valuable as an owner. And that affiliation with Cogent's really helped facilitate and made it possible for us to pass construction reform legislation for the city of Cleveland. So it's had a great benefit for me and my profession. The core values of Cogent's Alliance are understanding the diverse backgrounds, and that's professional and personal backgrounds, experiences and beliefs of various team members, exchanging ideas through, I will say, sometimes brutally frank conversations and debate, being responsible for positive outcomes over time with a lifelong passion to learn, grow, and stay curious. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention AIA Cleveland. I am also the vice president of the Cleveland chapter of the AIA, which is also a resource for a lot of great information and connections to the design community to learn more about various aspects.
Could you remind my colleagues what AIA stands for?
I'm sorry, it's the American Institute of Architects. It's the professional organization of architects, like the AMA is for doctors. So we're going to talk about project delivery, and let me first say, what do I mean by project delivery? Project delivery in this context means structuring the contracts for a construction project to support project success. Contracts, as you know, define relationships and responsibilities. There are a lot of different parties involved in any construction project of any significance that all have different roles and different expertises that must be brought together in a cogent way and drive toward the same goals in order for a project to be successful. And the right contract structure, and there are many possible contract structures, but the right contract structure can help that, and the wrong structure can inhibit it. There are a lot of considerations in selecting a project delivery method, and one thing I want to be very clear about here is there is no silver bullet delivery method. There is no perfect delivery method for all projects. The goal is always to find the right and appropriate delivery method for each project. And there are a lot of things to consider when doing that. One of the most prominent of those is risk tolerance and risk allocation for the project owner. A municipality has a different risk tolerance than a Silicon Valley startup, right? Appropriately so. And the risk, how the risk is shared among those players in the project, which we'll look at, is an important consideration in project delivery. One is owner experience and sophistication. How well, or what capacity does the owner have to manage a complex project? The City of Lakewood obviously has a lot of capital projects under their belt, and they have really good, highly skilled professionals to help them with that. It's on the more sophisticated side of a project owner. What's the scale, scope, and complexity of the project? We'll see that different methods are more appropriate for different scopes. How much control does the owner want over things like design, the quality of the product, the schedule, and which of those? Maybe controlling one is more important than the other. How much transparency and accountability is needed? Obviously, for a municipality, that's very important. What is the schedule? Is it fast? Is it looser? How important is that? And other project-specific constraints. That may be, there's maybe a very challenging site you're working on. Maybe there are legal constraints. Maybe there are grants involved that have constraints that come with them, like, you know, maybe there's a community benefits agreement attached to it. So all these other constraints might influence the decision of how to deliver the project. Risk tends to be the one we talk about the most, and it tends to be the one that occupies the biggest part of our conscience as we think about construction projects. Risk affects every member of the project team. We tend to think of it as the owner, which is O here, which we'll see these characters again. The owner, the contractor, and the architect, the O, the C, and the A. We tend to think of risk as involving those primarily and kind of binding them together. There may also be a landlord or another ownership entity. The contractor will be bringing in trade contractors, so those TCs that we're going to see, that's trade contractors. There may be a construction manager involved. All of these entities have responsibilities toward each other, and all of them have some exposure to risk. That risk and those responsibilities are, to a greater or lesser degree, defined by the contents of the contracts that they have with one another. Some of these entities will have contracts with each other, and some of them won't. Some of those risk barriers are well-defined, and some aren't. So there's this web of interdependent responsibilities and risks that defines the project team. And it's because of that web that communication and collaboration and team transparency is the most critical factor for project success. FMI did a study that said that 48% of construction-related lawsuits stem from a lack of communication. I don't know how they measure lack of communication, but FMI is insuring these projects, so they're very deeply invested in them not having lawsuits. So this is kind of a hidden nexus behind all these relationships that we want to make sure is not too hidden.
I'm sorry, could you just quickly go through what each of these stands for again?
Okay, so O is the owner, so in this case, that's you. C is the contractor, and all the sort of bluish colored are contractor-y things. So C is the general contractor who you would have a contract with. And then TC is trade contractors, so that's your masons, your plumbers, your carpenters. CM is a construction manager, which we'll define a little bit later. A is the architect, and I'm biased towards architects because I'm an architect. I really mean the entire professional design team. That's architects, engineers. It could be specialists like a building envelope specialist or a sustainability specialist, which may be important in a project. And LL is landlord, which really only applies in one kind of specific case we're going to look at. Risk is the entropy in the project. Entropy is everywhere. Risk is everywhere. It cannot be completely eliminated. It must be anticipated, understood, and managed. There tends to be mythologies out there about different construction project delivery methods that this will eliminate risk. This will put all the risk on X. It's not true. It needs to be anticipated, understood, and managed, and it can be managed. The three best tools to manage risk, in my opinion, are, in order, communication, transparency, and the contractual structure. There's every entity in the team has some bit of knowledge and expertise that's critical to the project. And if you don't have communication, you don't have the benefit of all that knowledge. And transparency is the methodology and the culture to facilitate that. The contractual structure can enable that. That's why the arrows are going up, or it can inhibit it. But the contractual structure itself is not enough. The owner has to drive the culture of collaboration. If the owner doesn't believe in that, it's not going to happen, regardless of the delivery method. So I'm going to talk about 4 delivery methods primarily: build to suit, design, bid, build, construction manager at risk, and design, build. These 4, and primarily the design, bid, build, CMR, and design, build, that's the vast majority of construction. So we'll define these and talk about what they're appropriate for and advantages and considerations of each one. There's others that I'm not really going to talk about. One is multiple prime, which I wouldn't recommend to anyone unless it's legally required or you're a masochist. One is integrated project delivery, which is, I think, often a step too far for most public entities. We can talk about that if you're interested. And the other is construction manager advisor. I'm going to mention this. I'm not going to talk about it as a separate delivery method. This has really evolved into the owner's representative role, which could apply to a lot of different delivery methods. An owner's representative is exactly what it says. You hire someone to act on your behalf in managing the project, typically if you don't have the capacity or the experience in-house to manage it. So let's talk about build to suit. Build to suit is when either a landlord or a person who owns a piece of property and intends to sell it offers to their tenants or to someone who's looking at buying the property, offers to improve that property in some way, in some capital way, and then sell it or lease it. And then the person who's buying it or the tenant pays for that through the purchase price or through their rent going forward, right? So the way this works is then that landlord, that property holder, would engage an architect and a contractor in whatever fashion they feel is appropriate to execute that work. So the owner, the person who's ultimately going to occupy, either rent or finally own, who's going to occupy that, does not have any contractual relationship with the entities who are going to execute the project. Their contractual relationship is only with the property owner, with the landlord. So you can immediately see there's a division, there's a gap there. There's a lack of communication and control and collaboration between the owner and the design and construction team. And I'm going to say I've led projects in every one of the delivery methods I'm talking about here. And in my experience, even with the best landlord, this is a very opaque process, just by the way it's structured. There is a lack of direct control and collaboration between, say, the users on the owner's side and the people who are designing the space. Even if that landlord is very gracious and you meet with the architect isn't working for you, right? The architect is working for that landlord. So there's a lack of control and collaboration. It's very difficult to adapt to change. One of the things that is as constant as entropy is change in construction projects. And it's very difficult to customize work. One of the advantages, and this is not insignificant in the appropriate project, is that it's very easy to do for that owner, that end user. If you are a tenant in an office building and the landlord offers to do tenant improvements for you and it rolls into your rent over the next 10 years, that's very easy. This type of delivery approach is appropriate for tenants in a building like that who may not be able to front-end the capital for that, or who don't have any ownership in the property, so they don't want to invest money into capital improvements for something they won't ultimately own, or if an entity wants to roll capital improvements into the mortgage if they're buying the property. It's really good for simple, standardized projects like a spec office building, parking lots. We see it with industrial properties, industrial sheds, things like that. The bottom line in build to suit is this. This is the takeaway. If you don't own the property, you don't control the project. And if you don't hold the contract, and I mean the contract with the people who are doing the project, you don't control the project. Let's talk about design, bid, build. And like I said, if any questions, please just let me know. Design, bid, build, this is the traditional way of doing capital projects, particularly in the public environment. And it's very simple. It's just what most people imagine. You hire an architect. You work with the architect, again, architecture team. They do a complete design for you the way you want it. You take that completed design, you put it out to bid, you receive bids, you select one of the bidders, traditionally the lowest qualified bidder, and their team carries out the construction. Like I said, this is the very traditional way to execute these, and I should say the architect typically does continue in a construction administration role to help kind of oversee the work. One of the good things about this is you get to work very closely with the design team, but then there's this big disconnect. Again, there's no line connecting the architect and the contractor. They're working in the same space, but they don't have a contractual relationship. There's nothing that defines the risk and responsibilities they have to each other. So there's this discontinuity. There's this gap in knowledge and gap in design intent between design and construction. There's no opportunity for design assist. I want to define what that is, and I'm going to come back to it again. Design assist is the practice of bringing in contractors, specifically trade contractors, during the design period, before you're ready to start construction, to help advise on the design. So, you want to build a brick wall, you have an architect, that's great. Let's also bring in a mason to talk about the best way to build this brick wall. Now, that may not be that important for a brick wall, but if you're going into an existing building and there's a stain on the wall and you don't know what's going on behind the wall, I think it might be good to bring in a contractor to open up the wall, and maybe a roofer can help identify where that water's coming from. Simple example, but even if it's a new build construction, mechanical equipment is big, heavy, costs a lot of money, and takes up a lot of room. Bringing in a mechanical contractor, hopefully the one you're going to actually use in construction, can really provide good advice to the mechanical engineer on what to specify and when to purchase it. One thing with design, bid, build, changes can be costly because you get what you get in the bid, and then at that point, you're on the hook for whatever might not be in that bid. One positive, and this sounds like it's being flippant, but it's real. This is the traditional way, and so it's easy to justify. No one ever took blame for doing design, bid, build. The other positive potential is that there's low overhead, and by that I mean there's no construction manager's fee. There's no, it is what it is. Design, bid, build is appropriate. I would say more for new construction, although not exclusively, but better for new construction. It's appropriate for an owner who can manage construction very well. Of course, you can supplement with that owner's rep or CM advisor to help you do that. Obviously, it's appropriate when it's required in some cases. When the project is relatively straightforward, when there's a known bid environment, when you have a good idea, a really solid idea of what the bids should be coming in at, and you can manage the risk through best value selection. So that means you can structure your bid package to ask for qualifications, similar projects, recommendations, references. It doesn't just have to be low bid. So you can structure the bid package so that you're getting the best value. And that's also part of knowing the bid environment, making sure you have some sense of the quality and reliability and financial viability of the people who are bidding on your project. One important takeaway with design, bid, build, you get one shot to get your price and get your partner. I mean, you can always rebid it, but that's typically you end up with worse results than the second bid on the same project. I want to talk about construction manager at risk. So the term at risk here means the construction manager is holding the construction contracts. The construction manager themselves may or may not self-perform any physical work, but they hold all the construction contracts. They're going to deliver the project to you, the physical project. So typically what happens in construction manager at risk, you hire an architect, and shortly after they get started, hopefully in schematic design, the first phase of design, you bring on that construction manager. The construction manager is selected on qualifications. They're going to have a fee, but they're not giving you a price for the project yet. You're selecting it's a professional services selection, so you select them on their qualifications. And they're on early in the design so that they, as the construction manager, can bring in the expertise of cost estimating, scheduling, constructability review, quality assurance into the process with the architect. Any good architect should be happy to work with a construction manager. They make their work better. Many of the most successful projects I've done have been with a construction manager. They bring the trade contractors in. They hold the trade contractors' contracts. And the architect and the construction manager work throughout the project together. Obviously, having those contractors on gives you that opportunity for design assist. This is potential for high control and collaboration. Often those relationships are much more thoroughly defined with the construction manager contract. It pulls the team together early. That has both psychological benefits of just gelling as a team, but also that variety of expertise is available early on. It's qualifications-based selection. Again, you have that opportunity for design assist. Now, I will say with design assist, you may be committing to a subcontractor earlier. You may have to pay for that, but it can really pay dividends if it's done wisely. You're working on cost decisions with the design process. So instead of doing design and then, boom, you get an envelope with a price in it, you're working on that cost together with the design process, and you'll be getting a guaranteed maximum price, or GMP, at some point even before the design is done. Now, that GMP is very different from a bid. GMP is a very complex document that encompasses the totality of the project in words and pictures and numbers. So it needs a lot of review. It takes time to develop. It's ideally developed hand in hand between the owner and the construction manager, and the architect is reviewing it. It has a lot of nuance to it. It'll have contingencies and allowances and all these things that are, that need careful review. But you'll be getting that, not just a bid. That GMP is part of the transparency. You still get competitive pricing from all the subcontractors, but the project has to be big enough to justify all this effort and the construction manager's fee. So this isn't for every project. It's appropriate for larger, complex projects. It's appropriate for projects that have a lot of unknowns that'll need to be worked through. It's appropriate for projects that have a lot of stakeholders who are going to want to have say in it, or who appropriately should have say in it. It's good for historic or renovation projects because you can get in there, you can take things apart, you can investigate. It's good for projects that have complex reporting requirements. CMs are generally very good at, if you have like minority or residential or, other participation requirements, that's something that needs to be managed and done very carefully. And it's also good if quality is a high priority. Last, I'm going to get into design build, and I'll try not to take too much time on this. Design build basically is when you hire a single entity to do design and construction. There's a lot of different varieties of design build. I'm going to touch on traditional, bridging, and progressive, and mention integrated briefly. Traditional design build is you send out an RFP that describes your project, and people come back to you and say, I will deliver this project for this amount. So their price is based on very scanty evidence. If you're concerned that the bid you get from design bid build doesn't contain everything when you have the architect's full drawings, you can imagine that a poorly designed RFP for design build, you really don't know what you're getting. And you sometimes get a wide range of prices, and it's difficult to evaluate them. So it's one contract for everything up front. It's a sole source of responsibility. That's one of the reasons people like design build. It's one of its big selling points. It's the responsibility and is very clear. It's unambiguous. You are buying the project all at once, but based on what? What is that price? You don't have all that detail of the GMP. It's a low control, low collaboration environment because it's already, whatever it is already baked in. You can do best value evaluation for this. As I mentioned, there's a lack of transparency in the traditional design build. It is typically fast, so we tend to see these for very straightforward, very quick, very cost-conscious projects. So it's appropriate when desired outcomes are known and clear, when cost is more important than quality, which sometimes it is. If you have a new build, a clean site, if it's easy to compare bids, and the metrics are specific, and the means are less important. Bridging design build is sort of a hybrid with construction manager at risk in that you have a criteria architect, so that's the C, little ca. The criteria architect does initial design for you, enough to define the parameters of what you want. The rooms, the sizes, the quality of finishes, maybe some specific finishes. There's a site layout. There's enough to really get your hands around. So you have much more information that the design builder can use to put their fees and their costs together. And the criteria architect typically will continue on in a much more active role during the rest of the design build process. So they're sort of acting as your advocate or your owner's rep, although you could also have an owner's rep with this.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Chair. What was the little c again on that one?
Criteria, so it's the criteria architect.
Thank you.
So I should define architect of record. Architect of record is the architect who puts their stamp on the drawings and has the legal responsibility for the code compliance of those drawings. The criteria architect is just drawing a design intent that's then taken over by the architect of record.
Thank you.
So bridging design build provides better control of quality and scope. It provides really good opportunities for collaboration. The criteria architect supports the owner throughout, typically. There's good opportunities for design assists. You can do best value evaluation. This is sort of an alternative to CM at risk. You can combine it with progressive, which we'll talk about, or you can add a CMA or owner's rep. And you can do fast track construction, which is a means of speeding up the schedule. It's appropriate for mid to large projects. It's an alternative to CMR. It's good for complex design development. And when you want better control than design bid build or traditional design build, this is a good option. The criteria architect can help select the design build team, which is a good idea because they've already learned a lot about the project. And the engineers from that criteria architect team can transfer to the design build team if desired. Last, I'm going to talk about progressive design build, which you can do progressive and bridging the same project. In this case, I'm also adding integrated design build. Integrated design build just means the design builder has architects in-house as opposed to hiring an architecture firm to work for them. In progressive design build, your initial contract is only for the design services. So the design builder is green for design. You work with them through design, and then you get to either a lump sum or a GMP, like the construction manager. Then you sign for the full construction price. This minimizes your upfront risk, and it makes the ultimate construction price much better informed and much more accurate. Reduces the need for a lot of contingencies and so forth. So it's a two-stage contract. You sign a design contract with the design builder. You go through, when you get to bidding, and you do competitive bidding, so you still get competitive pricing. Then you amend that contract with the construction contract. You get the full price. You understand what's in the price. You've seen the drawings. You've worked through it with the architects and the contractors who are. So progressive design build, it's a two-stage contract, design, then construction. Owner protections can be built in. You can set sort of triggers in the contract for if the price is over this, or you can just have an escape clause, like we get to this point, we can sever the contract and go about our lives. That can be structured in some different ways. You can combine it with bridging design build, or you can bring in a an owner's rep to help you if you need that. You get competitive bidding, and you work on the cost together with design, just like CMR. Again, you have that sole source of responsibility and the fast track opportunities. So yeah, this is just kind of a summary. We looked at build to suit, design bid build, construction manager at risk, and varieties of design build. And I know I was going through a lot of that really quick, but I didn't want everybody to fall asleep. There are a couple of quick things I want to wrap up here with some additional considerations. One is whether you want to have an owner's rep. Again, that could apply to almost any delivery method. We talked about the GMP versus the lump sum. The GMP, has a lot more information in it. Tends to be a higher price than a lump sum. It's a lot more work for you and the construction manager or design builder. We talked about design assist. That's always a great advantage if it's available. You're obviously aware of your requirements for public transparency and accountability. So that may inform the decision as well. Not that any of these is necessarily off limits. Obviously, consult with your law department. But I do want to leave with some final thoughts, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions. I'll go back to the beginning. There's no silver bullet delivery method. Every delivery method has an appropriate project. And the selection of a delivery method is not always obvious. Sometimes it is, but it's not always obvious. And there are nuances to these. Some of these are pretty similar in the way they function in the real world. The legal structure between, bridging design build and construction manager at risk is quite different, but there's a lot of similarities in the way they function. So there's some nuance it's worth giving some thought to, and I appreciate you taking the time to hear me pontificate about it. In making that selection, you have to understand your priorities. Why are you doing this project? What does success mean for this project? What does failure mean for this project? What are the best outcomes? What's the potential worst outcome? Which is most important between schedule, cost, program, scope, quality? Yeah, we want all those things. What is most important, and how can I control that? How much control do I need to have? How much resources, how much capacity do I have to do that work? How much do I just need to offload? Understand the relative balance of risk, cost, quality, and schedule. Right? These are all levers that you can pull on the project, but you have to set them early. If you decide to change that quality lever 3/4 of the way through design, it's going to cost a lot more than setting that lever at the beginning of design. And understand the opportunities for collaboration and transparency. All of this is just a substrate to provide the opportunity to collaborate with professionals who, by and large, for the most part in my experience, really care about what they do and want to do a good job. But we have to have the structure that enables them to do that. So that's all I have to share. And I know it's a lot to absorb in a short time, and I apologize for that, but I do want to make sure I can answer any questions you have.
Well, first, thank you very much. I think this was extremely helpful for me. I hope it was helpful for others, but I was writing down a lot of notes while you were talking, so very informative. I have one quick question. On the previous slide, the CMA, so that's the criteria, or you just tell me.
Okay, so CMA stands for Construction Manager Advisor.
Construction.
So they're not holding the construction contracts. They're really just an advisor. That role has really evolved into the owner's representative role. And the owner's representative, advocate, they represent the owner, they advocate on the owner's behalf, and they help run the project, particularly if it's a very complex project that just needs that full-time dedication, or if it's if the owner just doesn't have either the skills or the capacity to run that. So that's what CMA and owner's rep are more or less interchangeable at this point.
Colleagues, questions? Councilman Bullock.
Thank you. And it was good that you proactively included the final thought slide, because I was going to ask you, so what's the right answer? A couple of just clarifying questions. Can you remind us what LL means on the initial chart?
Landlord.
Okay, landlord. Great.
And that's because build to suit is very often a landlord doing work for tenants. Probably
Okay. Very good.
75% of build-to-suit work is landlord doing work for tenants.
Got it. And actually, the city does have a property in which we own and operate it, but we have a property manager in some ways as a landlord. Is there, this is a theoretical one, is there a unit of measure for risk?
I don't know. I mean,
Metric
there's a unit of
system,
measure
yeah.
for entropy, so maybe we could adopt that.
Yeah.
Not that I know of.
This is for your next professional association soiree. That'll be the topic. How to measure entropy.
Would it be money, schedule, and finish? And like,
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's sort of, it's funny, but we do measure risk, and we measure it with money. And that, we call that contingency or allowances, or sometimes it's interest rates, you know. So those are actuarial questions that I wouldn't necessarily be qualified to answer. Just through experience, I have a good sense of what are reasonable construction contingencies and how they should be used and shouldn't be used. But I don't know that there's a hard and fast rule.
Okay. There's a political cartoon I remember years ago where Einstein's at the chalkboard and he realized that time equaled money, and it was like they modified E equals MC squared. So I'm sure at some point you convert time risk into monetary risk as well.
Sure, and there's mechanisms for that too. I mean, the classical mechanism is liquidated damages, where you have a clause in a contract that says, okay, I'm going to be able to occupy this building by this date, and if I can't, then you owe me whatever, $1,000 a day. Or
well, I mean, this is a real thing that happened in a real project in the city of Lakewood at times. Okay, and then finally, where does this contract live? Is this the development agreement or something else? And I guess what the attorneys in the room have is a stack of templates which they can pull some of these different options from the shelf and begin to mix the colors in the new.
Yeah. So you're looking for like examples?
Yeah, I'm just in the spirit of the professional vocabulary for those of us who are generalists doing our best to represent the community. Is the contract the same thing as the development agreement, or the development agreement comes after the contract?
So
or they can overlap?
Yeah, these contracts may apply to any type of construction project and may be subordinated to a development agreement that would describe a broader relationship between someone who's a property owner and an ultimate user and owner. Actually, Kyle might be the best person to answer that, but I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I think to Tom's point, to Carter's point, there's always going to be a construction contract for someone who builds the building. There's always going to be a design contract for someone who designs the building. Where those sit, right? Is it under the same entity? Are they separate entities? Are they all in line with the landlord, or are they all in line with the owner? It just depends on where it's called privity of contract, really. It's like, who do you go, like, who do you seek redress for an issue you're having with your contract, right? So if we were in contract with a landlord or an owner, we'd have to go to them. If we had a designer and a contractor, we'd have to determine whether it was a design issue or a construction issue, and then we'd have to figure that out, right? The beauty of design build, as Carter said, is that the designer can point to the contract and you say, I don't care, it's one contract, it's your fault, right? And so it's just, it just depends on what you want, right? But it's all of these things he's describing are going to need to be, there's going to be some contract somewhere. It's just where it's at, how transparent is it, and who holds it.
Okay, and I'll conclude. It sounds like the point we're driving at is good fences make good neighbors, or to paraphrase that, good contracts make good partners, and get clear beforehand in our thinking about all of this, what our goals are, and therefore what structure of partnership will serve the goals and the circumstances.
Yeah, I would say good contracts are a good substrate for good neighbor. I mean, you can have a good fence and your neighbor could still be, blasting Metallica at 2 in the morning. So, I mean, maybe you like that. But.
Other council members, questions? Members of the administration, any follow-up questions? No? Okay. No? All right. So I just want to once again thank you, Mr. Edmond, for being here and for this was extremely informative. Council members, if you, as you dwell process all of this, and members of the administration too. If there are follow-up questions, Mr. Redmond's, like he said, he's interested in, make himself available to explain any of these terms, but we'll maybe ask the clerks to coalesce those so he doesn't, as a volunteer, have to answer a million emails from all of us. So, Councilmember Hamilton-Stein.
Thank you, President Keppel. I did have some questions, and so I'm more of a visual learner. So are you able to give examples of projects maybe that you've worked on, or maybe projects that used each specific style? So when we talk about design build and all of those, if you could just give some examples, that would just help me sort of visualize.
I'm sorry, I don't have pictures, but build to suit, I actually, when I was working for the city of Cleveland, we did some build to suit projects in some property that we were leasing. So we have, City Hall doesn't contain all our offices, so we also leased some office building space downtown. We did build to suit with that landlord. It went reasonably well. It was a very good landlord, but the structural problems were evident. Just standard office fit out. Design bid build. Most of the work I did for the city of Cleveland was design bid build. So I've had a variety of success and some less successful in that. A lot of work on rec centers, police and fire stations was design bid build. We also had some on-call services for architects and design. So if you have like little things you need now and then, I need somebody to design a renovation for this office, having on-call services for architects and engineers can be a handy way to do that. So you pre-select people and then you just assign them work. CMR, I worked for a Bostwick Design Partnership for a long time. We did a lot of healthcare and higher ed work. Most of that was CMR. All the work we did for the Cleveland Clinic was either CMR or integrated project delivery, which we didn't really talk about. Some of those were quite large. If you're familiar with the JJ parking garage and office complex, it's on 93rd Street. It's sort of the main parking garage when you go to the Central Clinic. I was the project architect for that over the course of several years. That was a CMR project. That construction manager also self-performed the concrete. So it was a very well integrated team and a very successful project. Design build is what I do now. So I want to be clear that I'm not pushing design build. It's one of all these options, and we do all types of these. We prefer progressive design build, but I've done all types of these. And again, you run into some of these issues of trying to bid on something that just has a sketch or a verbal description. It's challenging for the owner, but it's also challenging for the design builder. Bridging design build, we worked on those as well, where maybe the owner, in some cases, the owner has an architect that they like and they work with a lot. So but they want to do a design build project, so they'll use their architect to do a nice set of criteria documents to lay it all out. And then, progressive design build is what most of our projects are.
And Council President, and a little bit, just at least, Sean McDermott's sitting here, so he and I work together a lot on our projects at Cleveland Metro Parks, another public entity, and design bid build is kind of the traditional model. But as far as some projects around town that you may recognize, most of Cleveland Metro Parks and zoo-based projects that go vertical are construction manager at risk. We like it because what it does is it gives the owner a lot of control, and it's you can kind of iteratively go through with your partners and build a project. Design build, you have less control because that designer is under the same contract with the contractor, so you get a little bit less like, it's kind of like thoughtful checking, honesty, because they're saying, hey, maybe I disagree with your numbers here, or I respectfully think that you're off. So we use design build a lot at Metro Parks for, we have this amount of money, and we need this. And so how can we get as close to that grant amount of money that we have and get as much bang for the buck for that project as we possibly can? Sean, did I describe it well? All right, thank you.
All right. So we're getting close on time here. So if there are additional questions, we can coalesce those. These are not deliberating again on any particular thing, but just defining what these things are. That would be the scope here for our volunteer who's very thoughtfully given us his expertise. So thank you, Mr. Edmond. We really appreciate you sharing all this with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, we're going to, when we exit Committee of the Whole here, we have just a couple minutes to do, we're going to do our group picture up here, so if everyone can just stay here. We'll have our appointee come up, we'll do our group shot, and then I see Mr. Wayner in the back, so hopefully Matt can also get his headshot, and then we'll start full council, hopefully right on the dot at 7:30, so folks who are here can get on with their night. All right, so with that, no further business before Committee of the Whole. We are adjourned, but stay up here.
Very official there. You're so very official. See you, John.
behind the screen for just 2 minutes? All right. All right, so I'm going to have you turn about 30 degrees this way. That's the tip. Unless you want to be back there.
Useless. Yeah. She's taking her own. She's taking selfies over there.
We'll call to order the regular meeting of council for January 20th. If you're able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Now pause for a moment of silence. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Baker.
Here.
Councilmember Block.
Here.
Councilmember Evans.
Here.
President Keppel.
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton Steiner.
Here.
Councilmember Strubig.
Here.
Reading and disposal of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held January 5, 2026.
Move to approve without the necessity of a reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 1, report from Committee of the Whole held January 12, 2026.
Dear colleagues, Committee of the Whole met on Monday, January 12th for the purpose of interviewing candidates to fill the Ward 4 vacancy after the resignation of former council member Cindy Marks. After putting out an open call for applicants, 8 residents applied and 4 were invited to public interviews on the 12th. Pixie Malo, Jason Frederick, Sidney Leitner-Canaday, and Matthew Bixenstein. Council members asked each candidate questions regarding their engagement in the community, experiences, motivations, and visions for Ward 4 and the city. Following the interviews, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G, Council entered executive session for the purpose of considering the appointment of a public official. Upon exiting executive session, Council voted unanimously to amend Resolution 2025-77 to insert the name Matthew Bixenstein. Council members expressed how impressed they were with all of the candidates, thanked all for applying, and encouraged the 4 interviewees to stay engaged. Resolution 2025-77 as amended was referred favorably back to full council for adoption this evening. I'll move to receive and file that oral report.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, and I'll just say that I'll have more to say about our successful candidate after the next piece of legislation. Any further discussion? Hearing none, on the motion to receive and file, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 2, substitute Resolution 2025-77, a resolution to take effect immediately appointing Matthew Bixenstein to the Ward 4 seat on Lakewood City Council for the remainder of the 4-year term ending December 31st, 2027.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. For our discussion, I'll just add my remarks that I promised you. While we were once again fortunate to have a strong pool of applicants, Matt Bixenstein's extensive engagement with and knowledge of Ward 4 shone through brightly. A resident of Ward 4 for 11 years, Matt founded Friends of Madison Park, served on Keep Lakewood Beautiful and the Tree Education and Advisory Board, led new initiatives with the Harrison Elementary PTA, and started the Little Free Toy Library at Madison Park. When asked during his interview about his motivation for being on City Council, Matt replied that the position would feel like a natural progression of the community work he already does, and I couldn't agree more. Matt has spent over a decade dedicating himself to the hyper-local issues impacting Ward 4. Through his service, he has formed genuine relationships with neighbors from all walks of life. As part of the appointment process, we invite members of the public to submit letters of support for their preferred candidate. It is notable that of the 42 letters of support we received for various candidates, Matt Bixenstein received 36. And they came from neighbors with varied lived experiences and perspectives. As we've gone through this appointment process, we've often noted the incredible diversity of Ward 4. This will be the first time in many years that Ward 4 will be represented by someone residing south of Madison Avenue. And Matt doesn't just live there, he actively works to strengthen community in his neighborhood. I've had the opportunity to stop by the Clarence Avenue Block Party, and every year, Matt is clearly the heart of the operation. Kids from all over the street clearly already know him and are running up to ask about the next activity. Likewise, if you've been to one of the Madison Court Community Coalition events, Matt's there on behalf of Friends of Madison Park, running games and helping however it is needed. Many residents wrote to us to also praise Matt's work as the former marketing and development manager at Lakewood Alive. And through that work and his continued volunteerism, he's acquired knowledge about the mechanisms of local government and built relationships with city leaders and staff that will be a strength in his new role. Matt's passion for community building and his extensive knowledge of both the ward and the city will make him a tremendous asset on City Council, an effective advocate for the residents he'll represent. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All right. On the motion to adopt Resolution 2025-77, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 3, oath of office of newly appointed Ward 4 member of council.
Judge Neff?
repeat after me. I, Matt Bixenstein,
I, Matt Bixenstein,
recognizing my duty to the citizens of Lakewood,
recognizing my duty to the citizens of Lakewood,
do solemnly
swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws
that I will support the Constitution and laws
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the Constitution and statutes of the state of Ohio,
the Constitution and statutes of the state of Ohio,
and the Third Amended Charter
and the Third Amended Charter
and ordinances of the city of Lakewood,
and ordinances of the city of Lakewood,
that I will not be influenced by any consideration
that I will not be influenced by any consideration
except that of merit and fitness
except that of merit and fitness
in the appointment or discharge of employees,
in the appointment or discharge of employees,
that I will not make or authorize
that I will not make or authorize
the expenditure of public money
the expenditure of public money
otherwise than for service to the city of Lakewood,
otherwise than for service to the city of Lakewood,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and perform all of the duties incumbent upon me
and perform all the duties incumbent upon me
as the Ward 4 Member of Council
as the Ward 4 Member of Council
for the term ending December 31, 2027,
for the term ending December 31, 2027,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Judge.
You have to make it official, Councilman.
I'm going to move to receive and file that oath of office.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. And for the discussion, I'll turn it over to our new council member if you'd like to make any remarks.
Thank you very much. I'll keep this brief. I just wanted to thank the many folks who've supported me along the way to this role. I'm eternally grateful. I look forward to tackling this new challenge. I also want to thank fellow city council members for their confidence in me, and I look forward to continuing to serve this city in this capacity. Thank you very much to all who have helped me get here.
Any further discussion? Vice President Baker.
I think Councilman Bixenstein's kids should be applauded for how well they've behaved this evening. So.
Councilman Buck.
Madam President, thank you. Congratulations, Matt. Welcome aboard. Thank you for the service you've been providing for some years already. Thank you to your family for also being selfless with your time in the community. And to add, the Council President did a great job of summarizing your experience. I'll just add, you're a very selfless and low-ego guy, and I mean that as a compliment. I think it's a compliment. But if we had a definition in the Dictionary of Community Service, your picture would be right next to it. So I'm glad you're with us.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Hamilton Steiner.
Thank you, President Keppel. Congratulations once again, Councilman Bixenstein. I have thoroughly loved and appreciated working with you over these previous 5 years with Madison Court Community Coalition, and just as President Keppel already said, like, you were there with us at the grassroots, there when the violence happened, responding back to help us community build and build community, and heading into that 6th season, we'll now be on the other side watching that all happen. And it's a different experience seeing others step up and step into the community when you have an opportunity to step up and lead in a different place. So now I get to work with you again, but on this site, so I really do look forward to that.
Thank you so much.
Councilman Evans?
Councilman, obviously known you for quite some time. Going back, we've worked on a lot of things over the years together, but I'm excited to be and privileged to be working with you in this capacity to continue our service to the community together. So welcome aboard.
Thank you. I look forward to learning from all of you.
Councilmember Stuping?
Thank you. Welcome, Matt. It's good to have another Bobcat up here. And I want to say I am also looking forward to working with you with the block clubs and with the parks and learning from you as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, fellow OU Bobcat.
All right, any further discussion? All right, welcome aboard, Matt, and we look forward to working with you. Now, Councilmember Bixenstein. All right, so we have a motion and a second to receive and file the oath of office. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 4, Ordinance 01-2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately to approve the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances as parts of the various component codes of the codified ordinances and to provide for the publication of such new matter.
Move to defer.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. This is just our periodic ordinance. These are things that have already passed, but they haven't been printed and distributed yet in our codified ordinances system. So this is just on second reading. Things normally go for 3 readings in ordinances, so we'll defer and pass it hopefully next time. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none. On the motion to defer, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 5, Resolution 2026-01, a resolution to take effect immediately approving the use of submerged lands for property located at 1040 Forest Cliff Drive, Lakewood, Ohio, in order to permit the owners the opportunity to construct the proposed shore structure.
And this was in Public Works earlier this evening. Councilmember Evans, do you want to update us on this?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. We had an opportunity to talk through this resolution with Engineer Papke and with Director Gordon and Director Vargo. A little different than some other ones, and we had an outfall on the property, so the city worked with ODNR and the property owners to have an easement so that we can look after our own interests there for city property for maintenance of that, but otherwise so a rather standard procedure for folks who live along the shore that are looking to do some work or shoring up their property, and this was referred favorably back to council.
Thank you. All right, so I will move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? We appreciate the homeowners being patient with us and Public Works for doing the due diligence there, and the law department for structuring all this as well. All right, so motion's been made and seconded to adopt. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 6, communication from President Keppel regarding council committee assignments.
Dear colleagues, with the anticipated appointment, now actual appointment, of our new Ward 4 colleague and the beginning of new council leadership and council at large terms, I have updated the council committee assignments. The assignments below will be effective following the swearing in of our new Ward 4 colleague, so now. Chairs, please work with the council clerk to review pending items before your respective committees, discuss process, and schedule meetings accordingly. I'll move to receive and file that communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 7, communication from Vice President Baker reintroducing an ordinance to amend Chapter 1775 and address front yard plantings.
Vice President Baker.
Your colleagues, this communication and the following ordinance are intended to reintroduce the topic of front yard plantings, a topic that was originally brought before council by Commissioner Parmalee via Ordinance 18-2025 to establish regulations around front yard plantings on private property within the city. Ordinance 18-2025 was originally introduced and referred to the Housing, Planning, and Development Committee on May 19, 2025, where it received 3 hearings before it was automatically discharged from the committee pursuant to Lakewood Codified Ordinances, Ordinance 121.17. This provision of the code requires all referrals more than 6 months old to be automatically terminated at the end of each biennium. The ordinance on tonight's docket differs from the original Ordinance 18-2025 in that it captures changes made during the committee discussion in response to resident feedback. I respectfully request that council refer the revised version of this ordinance to committee so that we may resume deliberations where we left off. Sincerely, Kyle Baker. I'll make a motion to receive and file this communication.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to receive and file the communication. Any further discussion? Appreciate the continued work on this and taking into consideration the dialogue that's already happened. All right, on any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 8, Ordinance 2, 2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately to amend Chapter 1775 Weeds of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Lakewood for the purpose of establishing regulations for front yard plantings.
All right, so I'll move to refer to Housing Planning and Development.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 9, communication from Councilmember Strebig, reintroducing an ordinance to amend Chapter 505 to create regulations regarding a trap, neuter, and return program.
Councilmember Strebig.
Dear colleagues, this communication and the following ordinance are intended to reintroduce the topics of creating a trap, neuter, and return program for the management of community cats, a topic that I originally brought before the council via Ordinance 20-2025 after receiving thoughtful recommendations from the Lakewood Animal Safety and Welfare Advisory Board. Ordinance 20-2025 was originally introduced and referred to Public Safety Committee on May 19, 2025, where it received several hearings before it was automatically discharged from committee pursuant to Lakewood Codified Ordinance 121.17. This provision of the code requires all referrals more than 6 months old to be automatically terminated at the end of each biennium. The ordinance on tonight's docket differs from the original ordinance 20-2025 in that it captures changes made during committee discussions in response to residents and expert feedback. I respectfully request that council refer the following revised version of this ordinance to committee so that we may resume deliberations where we left off. Sincerely, me.
Thank you. So I'm gonna, when we get to the ordinance, I'm going to make a motion to refer that to public safety. So our new public safety chair will be Councilwoman Hamilton Steiner. Would you like the communication or is the ordinance sufficient?
You can send both.
Send both.
For both. Thank you.
Okay. So I will move to refer this communication to public safety.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 10, Ordinance 3, 2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately, updating various sections of Chapter 505, Animals and Fowl of the Lakewood Codified Ordinances and creating regulations for trap, neuter, spay, and return of community cats within the City of Lakewood.
Move to refer to public safety.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that motion passes.
Item 11, communication from Councilmembers Bullock, Hamilton Steiner, and Evans regarding continued work on the 2026 council budget priorities.
Councilmember Bullock, I'm presuming?
Thanks, Madam President. Although we could want to split the reading of the letter. Okay, we'll coordinate. Dear Mayor and members of council, in November and December of last year, City Council began deliberations on the 2026 council budget priorities as part of the budgeting process. We received information from the administration about how a portion of these priorities were included in the administration's budget proposal, and we took action to add contracting authority for an additional priority not included. Extensive discussion, both in committee and during the council meeting, identified a preference by some to conduct work on the remaining unfunded council budget priorities in the form of legislation proposed in the new year rather than by amendments proposed during the meeting. Following this communication is proposed legislation to allow us to proceed as discussed. Amendments to several pieces of 2026 budget legislation that incorporate as a starting point the proposals previously identified. These are intended to facilitate further deliberation by council on whether to allocate funds, on which priorities, at what levels, and from what source of funds. It is likely that amendments will be made to these initial versions. And a summary of priorities and their amounts can be found in the chart below. As an editorial comment, this is a simplified version of a chart shared previously back at that December meeting. That full chart is available also, just not submitted here. But this is a summary of what's initially proposed by the council budget priorities process throughout last year. There could be more, there could be less, but this is a starting point and summarizes what is incorporated in the proposed amended versions of the 3 pieces of legislation that follow this communication. So please, continuing on reading the letter, please refer this to Finance Committee for further discussion. Sincerely, I move to receive and file. I'll leave the motion to you, Madam President.
I'm going to, thank you. Vice President Baker?
Yes.
I assumed. Okay. So I will move to refer the communication to Finance Committee.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Appreciate the thoughtful write-up of this and follow-up to previous discussion. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 12, Ordinance 33, 2025A, an ordinance to take effect immediately to establish appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Lakewood, State of Ohio, for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2026.
Move to refer to Finance Committee.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 13, Ordinance 34, 2025A, an ordinance to take effect immediately, authorizing the mayor, the director of law, the director of finance, director of public works, director of planning and development, director of human services, and director of human resources, or the procurement officer to enter into contracts for professional services and to advertise for bids and enter into contracts for the purchase of repair, maintenance, and operating supplies, services, and equipment as authorized by the 2026 Appropriation Ordinance and the Administrative Code of the City with the lowest and best bidder or bidders or as otherwise provided by law.
Move to refer to Finance.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 14, Ordinance 36, 2025A, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing the mayor, the director of public works, the director of law, the director of finance, the director of planning and development, and or purchasing manager to enter into service contracts in accordance with the administrative code of the City of Lakewood for the Department of Planning and Development in accordance with the administrative code of the city, contracts not to exceed the specified amounts shown without separate resolution of council.
Move to refer to Finance.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Councilmember Bullock.
Thanks. Just a brief thought here on the proposals collectively. There may be a couple different elements to this that we could all discuss. One is the substance of what's proposed. The second, and this again, to repeat, is an attempt by me to, and colleagues, Councilwoman Hamilton-Steiner and Mr. Evans, to not just author everything ourselves, but to present in legislative proposal form what the council as at large last year deliberated upon. So it could be amended. The second would be mechanical. Are these red lines successful in executing what's proposed? It may well be that we need to work with the administration if we did have consensus on the first step, which is, do we substantively want to support this? And of course, we anticipate a conversation with the mayor and her team on the substance as well. And then the final bit would be a subset of the mechanical, which is, can we afford to do this? How do we afford to do it? There's a proposed way to afford to do it in what's before you. But all of this is, I anticipate we're going to have a thoughtful discussion ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So we are on the motion to refer to Finance. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 15, communication from Human Resources Director Dillinger regarding updated 2026 salary ordinance.
Mayor George.
All right. Attached is the updated 2026 salary ordinance for your approval to be effective as signed and passed in accordance with the city charter. These additional changes align with the license and certification stipends, which became effective with the 2026 through 2028 labor agreements. Additionally, we have moved the position of Public Information Officer from pay grade 31 to pay grade 33 due to the increased job responsibilities assigned to the position and to remain competitive in the job market. I appreciate your time and consideration.
Thank you. I'll move to receive and file the communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 16, Ordinance 37, 2025A, an ordinance to take effect January 1, 2026, to provide for creating positions and rates of pay for full-time and certain part-time annual salaried employees and hourly rate employees not covered by a collective bargaining agreement in the several departments, divisions, and offices of the city, including Chief of Fire, Chief of Police, and Civil Service Commissioners, and superseding all prior salary ordinances.
Move to refer to Finance.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 17, communication from Finance Director Mahoney regarding amendment to 2026 appropriation ordinance to allow for City Hall renovations.
Director Mahoney.
Dear members of council, please find attached an amendment to the 2026 appropriation ordinance. This amendment would allow for the $16.5 million in City Hall improvements. This change is being presented in coordination with the debt ordinances, in that if those are passed as presented, this change would also be required. Please refer to the attached legislation to the appropriate committee for further review. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll move to receive and file the communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. So, colleagues, as you'll recall, with our upcoming City Hall discussion schedule, next Monday we'll have the presentation from the administration about the proposed City Hall solution, as well as from the Bond Council with this 16.5 that's referenced here as part of that bonds discussion. So that's not the entire bonds discussion, but it would be part of that. So, so with that in mind, when we get to the ordinance, I will probably move to refer that to Committee of the Whole, because that will be part of that package of discussions. So just to understand. But for the communication, we have the motion to receive and file. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 18, Ordinance 33, 2025B, an ordinance to take effect immediately to establish appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Lakewood for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2026.
Move to refer to Committee of the Whole.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 19, communication from Finance Director Mahoney regarding 2026 first quarter transfers.
Director Mahoney.
Dear President Keppel and members of council, the 2026 first quarter transfer ordinance reflects 25% of the total anticipated transfers between funds that were included within the 2026 appropriations. This also includes advances back to the general fund that were made to the respective funds at the end of 2025. Please place on the appropriate reading and refer to the Finance Committee if necessary for further discussion. Sincerely.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 20, Ordinance 4, 2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing the transfer in advance of certain funds.
Move to refer to Finance Committee.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 21, communication from Finance Director Mahoney regarding 2026 municipal capital lease in an amount not to exceed $2.375 million.
Director Mahoney again.
You're going to get tired of me. Dear members of council, attached is an ordinance to request quotes for municipal capital leases in the amount not to exceed $2,375,000 for the following capital equipment: fire medic squad, special operations truck, 5 police vehicles, refuse side load packer truck, streets vehicle, assault truck, sewer truck, and a sewer van. I respectfully request that this legislation be placed on first reading and referred to the Finance Committee for further review and discussion.
Thank you. Move to receive and file the communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 22, Ordinance 5, 2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately, authorizing the Director of Finance to enter into equipment leases in forms approved by the Director of Law on behalf of the City of Lakewood.
Move to refer to Finance Committee.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that motion passes.
Item 23, communication from Finance Director Mahoney regarding 2026 capital improvement and bond legislation.
Director Mahoney.
Dear President Keppel and members of council, please find attached the following: ordinances relating to the 2026 bond anticipation notes in an amount not to exceed $27.045 million used to finance capital improvement projects. Ordinance relating to the 2026 bond anticipation notes refunding the amount not to exceed $32,695,000 used to finance capital improvement projects. These bond anticipation notes are for prior year projects still under construction. Another one-year note will be issued to repay or roll those prior year notes. The $27.045 million corresponds to the city's 2026 capital improvement program paid via bond anticipation notes and were included in the 2026 budget and budget hearings. The amount for renovations of City Hall is $16.5 million, are included in the facility improvements amounts of $18.3 million. And then there's the six items: 4.9, street improvements; 18.3, facility improvements; 850,000 water improvements; 500,000 sidewalk improvements; 125,000 traffic signalization improvements; and $2,370,000 for sewer improvements. There are two additional ordinances presented that would allow the Director of Finance to issue bonds later this year to refund the 2016A bonds, which will be currently callable in the fall of 2026 if market conditions provide favorable savings to the city, and to convert the 2024 and 2025 projects, that $32,695,000, to bonds at the same time as the refunding. I respectfully request that this legislation be placed on first reading and referred to the Finance Committee for further review and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to move to refer to Committee of the Whole.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion.
Madam President?
Councilman Bullock.
Thank you. So thank you for the process. Thank you also for the clear communication from the Finance Director, and I look forward to the deliberations. So two questions. One is, I often find the hearings helpful with our bond counsel and our debt banker, Mr. Rink. Normally, they're kind of routine discussions that we get into the mechanics of issuing debt, proper debt management, a refresher on the series of bonds and previous debt and our strategy for financial management to save the taxpayers money. I think we're going to be talking about something else or other matters this time. So to save time in the hearing, could we have, for those council members who want some one-on-one Q&A with the bond counsel and or the banker, to some dialogue, if anybody has some, outside of the hearing, so that we can get some of those routine questions squared away. I would personally find that helpful, just to get a refresher on, okay, I know I'm going to get the charts, but to interpret the charts and remember the debt strategy, it's helpful to get those experts answer the questions.
Yeah, maybe I would suggest, Councilman Bullock, that after next Monday's presentation, if there were questions, sure, I can set up any meetings. There is just a little bit difference in this this year than other years, in that the two extra ordinances are, if the market is favorable in the fall, to refund a couple things. That's new, and we figured it was just easier to present all at once. And they will definitely go into that discussion next Monday. So again, maybe I suggest after Monday, if there's still questions.
Okay, yeah, and I'd be happy to do a call with you present if that's helpful.
Sure.
It's optional, but just getting some facts and clarifying questions squared away. That's my first concern. And then, Madam President, if I may. So the other point here is, of course, City Council removed the $16.5 million, and now we're getting a presentation of debt financing that includes $16.5 million for the potential of City Hall renovations and rehabilitation. It's obviously a live discussion. It's possible that the full amount is supported. It's possible that zero of it is supported or a different amount supported. So can you talk to us a little bit about why you're including something that's not in the budget before us as if it is in the budget, and is the administration prepared to make an adjustment should council not support $16.5 million as you've got it drafted now?
Thank you. So that first ordinance was to add it, excuse me, add it back into the budget. I just thought it was easier to include it rather than trying to rewrite the language to include it later. It's probably easier for council to strike it than to say, okay, and add it back. So that was my thought process.
Thank you. And I'll just want to clarify, and then I'll go to Vice President Baker's. I guess I was anticipating that we would have sort of the usual dialogue as well as talking about the two additional ones, essentially, because really, but there may be additional questions because of the amounts or whatnot, but I was anticipating that we would have most of our usual type of discussion. Is that what you're anticipating, Director Mahoney?
Right, and I've gone over it with both KeyBank and Catherine Swartz about what they're going to present. It's pretty much the usual. I think it should answer most of council's questions. But again, if not, happy to set up more time after.
Vice President Baker.
Thank you, Chair. And Director Mahoney, I asked Mr. Rink and Ms. Schwartz last time if they could just send us the little wonderfully printed packets via email, perhaps Friday, just so we can look at them. It's always helpful to absorb rather than see it for the first time. And especially this is a big deal. And it sounds like we're going to be covering a lot of other topics as well, so it may give us time to absorb.
Sure, thank you. And you don't have to wait till Friday. If they already have it, we'll take it sooner rather than later when they have it. That's helpful. We all have very different schedules trying to squeeze in all that dense reading, so thank you. All right. And also just on that note, just in terms of scheduling, so because they are outside council, there's a little more arranging in terms of making sure that they can be here. So that was part of why they were moved to that night when we had the original amended schedule. That same night, we are scheduled to have the administration present to us on the proposal. We do have several other weeks set aside too. So as we begin those discussions, if anticipate we may have more questions on the proposal for City Hall that can certainly roll over into the following weeks as well. But we want to make sure we take advantage of the bond council while they're here, and then we'll at least begin the City Hall conversation that same night. So just making sure everyone has similar expectations for how we're moving forward. Okay, so we have a motion to receive and file the communication. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes. And then I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules and read agenda items 24 through 32 together.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call, I think.
Vice President Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Bixenstein?
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
President Keppel?
Yes.
Councilmember Steiner?
Yes.
Councilmember Streetbeck?
Yes.
And that motion passes.
And that motion passes. Thank you. Good luck.
Item 24, Ordinance 6, 2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount not to exceed $4.9 million in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of improving Bunce Road, Lake Road, Clifton Road, and other streets located within the city between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and approving related matters. Item 25, Ordinance 7, 2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately, authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount not to exceed $18.3 million in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of improving Winterhurst Ice Arena in City Hall and other public buildings, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and approving related matters. Item 26, Ordinance 8, 2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately, authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount not to exceed $850,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of designing, engineering, and constructing water improvements together with all necessary appurtenances thereto. Item 27, Ordinance 9, 2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount not to exceed $500,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of improving sidewalks within the city and approving related matters. Item 28, Ordinance 10, 2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount not to exceed $125,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of providing new traffic signalization together with all necessary appurtenances thereto and approving related matters. Item 29, Ordinance 11, 2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount of not to exceed $2,37,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of designing, engineering, constructing sewer improvements together with all necessary appurtenances thereto and approving related matters. I'll continue. Item 30, Ordinance 12, 2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing the issuance of notes in the amount not to exceed $32.695 million in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay costs of constructing a refuse recycling facility, renovating refuse truck parking facility, replacing or improving the roofs of public buildings, including the municipal facilities garage, improving the heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems at the fire station, improving parks, including pavement, sidewalk resurfacing and construction, lighting and landscaping, together with all necessary site work, infrastructure improvements, and appurtenances thereto, improving sidewalks within the city, improving Bunce Road, Crest Lane, Gill Avenue, Onondaga Avenue, Wayne Avenue, and Webb Road, and other streets located within the city between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, improving City Hall, Winterhurst Ice Arena, Fire Station Number 3, Public Works Garage, and other city facilities, including renovating city facilities, improving the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, constructing a storage facility, improving parks within the city, including Lakewood Park, Coffin Park, and other park improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, improving sidewalks within the city, improving Edgewater Drive, Summit Avenue, and other streets located within the city between certain termini by resurfacing, replacing concrete, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, designing, engineering, constructing water improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and designing, engineering, constructing sewer improvements, and retiring notes previously issued for such purpose and approving related matters. Danielle, is your mic working?
Item 31, Ordinance 13-2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately, authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $15,845,000 of bonds for the purpose of currently refunding all or a portion of the city's various purpose improvement and refunding bonds. Series 2016A, dated April 5th, 2016, to refund a portion of the city's $21,210,000 various purpose general obligation bonds. Series 2005, limited tax obligation, dated May 26, 2005. Refund a portion of the city's $14,320,000 sewer system revenue bonds, Series 2006, dated August 30th, 2006. Refund a portion of the city's $10,285,000 water system revenue bonds, Series 2006, dated August 30th, 2006, and retire the city's $17,375,000 various purpose improvement notes issued on April 9th, 2015, and approving related matters in connection with the issuance of the bonds. Item 32, Ordinance 14-2026, an ordinance to take effect immediately, authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $32,695,000 of bonds for the purpose of retiring notes issued for the purpose of constructing a refuse recycling facility, renovating refuse truck parking facility, replacing or improving the roofs of public buildings, including the municipal facilities garage, improving the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems at the fire station, improving parks, including pavement and sidewalk resurfacing and construction, lighting and landscaping, together with all necessary site work, infrastructure improvements, and appurtenances thereto, improving sidewalks within the city, improving Bunce Road, Crest Lane, Guile Avenue, Onondaga Avenue, Wayne Avenue, and Webb Road, and other streets located within the city between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, improving City Hall, Winterhurst Ice Arena, Fire Station Number 3, Public Works Garage, and other city facilities, including renovating city facilities, improving the heat, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, constructing a storage facility, improving parks within the city, including Lakewood Park, Kaufman Park, and other improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, improving sidewalks within the city, improving Edgewater Drive, Summit Avenue, and other streets located within the city between certain termini by resurfacing and replacing concrete, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, designing, engineering, and constructing water improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, designing, engineering, and constructing sewer improvements, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, approving related matters in connection with the issuance of the bonds.
Great. I'm going to move to refer items 24 through 32 to Committee of the Whole.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Thank you to the clerks for getting through all that. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 33, communication from Assistant Planning Director Boss regarding Madison Avenue and Hilliard Road Safety Analysis Study.
Director Byington?
Thank you, President Keppel and members of council. In coordination with the Public Works Department, the enclosed study covering the Madison-Hilliard intersection is provided for reference. The Madison-Hilliard Safety Analysis Study, which considered the main intersections as well as the Carabel and Orchard Grove intersections, was conducted from April to October of 2025 and included the following: field surveys of the intersections and all current traffic control measures, signals and operation cycles, collection and analysis of historic and current traffic data, study of the past 5 years of accident reports, and study of safety improvement alternatives and determination of subsequent recommendations. The recommendations outlined by this study include and build upon those provided for this intersection by the Active Transportation and Safe Streets for All plans. In consultation with the traffic engineer who conducted the study, the city has already implemented several of the study's short-term recommendations this past spring and summer, and will continue to work to implement many of the remaining short-term actions during this coming year. Long-term recommendations, especially changes requiring roadway demolition and construction, will be considered per the city's Complete Streets Ordinance. It is requested that this study be referred to the appropriate committee for further detailed discussion as appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. This is some pretty interesting reading, so appreciate the work that went into getting this study done, and lots to look at. So I'm going to move to, because this affects public safety, but also, of course, has public works implications and development implications, I'm going to move to refer to Committee of the Whole, as well as the Case Advisory Board and Planning Commission.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Councilmember Evans.
Yeah, I just want to thank the Planning Department and the administration for getting this study done. This is continual. I appreciate the near-term efforts we've done, so we've checked off some of the short-term things. This intersection continues to be the thing in the community that we hear about again and again and again, the safety here. So thank you for getting us some concrete thoughts on how we can move forward, and I look forward to working with everybody here to make some of these long-term solutions mentioned in the plan shorter-term solutions. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilmember Bullock.
Thanks, Madam President. Just a quick question to Director. Is the traffic engineer reference in the letter, is that the consultant or is that an in-house person?
It's Iteris, correct? Consultant.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
I don't think we have an in-house traffic engineer. Am I?
Council President Keppel, no, we do not. This was an outsourced contractor that we've worked with on numerous occasions for many different traffic signal projects and things of that nature.
Thank you. Yeah, and and I appreciate that work. Sometimes when folks ask us to do something and to tell them, we need some expertise because Otherwise, we do something that makes it worse. That's not what we want to do. So, all right. So any further discussion on the motion to refer to Committee of the Whole, Case Advisory Board, and Planning Commission? I'll just add that I'm open. I'll work with Planning Department to, if we want to have any sort of joint meeting to reduce the amount of staff time, I'd be happy to do that as well. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 34, communication from Public Works Director Gordon regarding 2026 County Road Preventive Maintenance Reimbursement Program.
Director Gordon.
Thank you, Council President Keppel. If you could just give me 1 second, my computer is unfortunately malfunctioning.
You can read the screen.
Wow. I'm good. I'm there. All right. Sorry about that. Dear President Keppel and members of City Council, the city's Division of Streets and Forestry was awarded up to $125,000 from the Cuyahoga County Department of Public Works 2026 County Road Preventive Maintenance Reimbursement Program. The Streets Division will use this reimbursement funding to perform crack sealing, pavement marking, and when needed, pavement repairs on county roads. As part of the reimbursement program, the county will process only for material costs, and the total reimbursable cost for the year 2026 may not exceed $125,000. Pursuant to Lakewood Codified Ordinance Section 111.14B, this letter serves as notice of our intention to accept these funds. Please let me know if you have any further questions.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Appreciate the communication and the work as always. And we just have to get it warm enough that we can do some of that work. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes. All right, that brings us to the end of the docketed items. We're on to public comment. Do we have? Yep, we do. While we're bringing that sheet up, I just want to mention that we did have some folks provide e-comments, so council members, make sure you take a look at those if you haven't already. Those will be included in the minutes, or in the yeah. So first up, when I call your name, come up to the microphone. It is on. I can see the green light, so you don't have to push anything. You'll have up to 5 minutes. You can state your name, and if you feel comfortable, your address for the record. Address your remarks to the chair, that's me, and that's about it. So first up is Christopher Bindle. Welcome back.
Hi there, Chris Bindle, 1212 Hathaway. First, I'd like to welcome and congratulate you, Councilman Bixenstein.
Thank you.
It's glad to see you up there. I'm here just as my semi-monthly reminder to look at the charter review recommendations, specifically RCV. So that's all I really have. I just figured if my face is here semi-regularly, it helps refresh your memory on that. So, all right, that's it.
Thank you. All right, and next up is Dean Jackson. Welcome back.
Hi, everybody. Esteemed council members, it's great to be here at the start of a new year. As you work out your agenda for the year, I wanted to come up and talk a little bit more about the Charter Review Commission recommendations that were given to council in 2024. My name is Dean Jackson. I think all of you know me except for our newest council member, Councilmember Bixenstein. Welcome, congratulations. Looking forward to getting to know you and working with you. So I served on the Charter Review Commission in 2024. Councilmember Hamilton Steiner was there with me in the trenches of the East Conference Room down the hall. We issued several recommendations which are still before you. I still stand behind all of them. Many of them, they included matters including the lack of a redistricting mechanism in Lakewood City Charter, mechanisms for addressing city council pay, which I saw did increase through the civil service mechanism, so it's good that there's a mechanism working, but that can still be, I think, improved. There were other suggestions in there worth taking a look. I did want to address the one that, if you read the Charter Review Commission report, consumes the highest percentage of the word count, which was ranked choice voting. Many of you have heard from me on this topic before, but for Councilmember Bixenstein's benefit, perhaps, I just want to address a few common talking points and perhaps misperceptions about the issue. So the first is that sometimes when this topic comes up, people will ask, is this really a local problem? Does it solve an issue that Lakewood has? And people have said that they don't feel that it does, or they don't understand how it does. And respectfully, I disagree. I do think that it matters for Lakewood and it solves issues that Lakewood has. And if you just look at the last election that we had multiple races on the ballot where there were more, I think, highly qualified candidates than there were seats. And that creates a situation in which voters have difficulty expressing their will, right? Maybe you want to vote for everyone. Maybe you have a specific rank order in which you like candidates, and you can only vote for so many members of the at-large race. You can only vote for so many members of school board. This gives citizens a more flexible way to express their opinion and leads, the political science tells us, and examples from around the country where this has been tried and around the world where this has been tried, to more consensus opinions. So I do think that we do have situations in Lakewood where this does solve a problem and make a difference. People bring up cost a lot. There's the matter of the technical switch to holding an election in a different way. That's a software upgrade. We don't have to imagine what that cost is. We can talk to other cities. We can get estimates from the Board of Elections. It's also the cost of just educating citizens, updating voter guides. That can be done for pennies per voter. In addition to working with community groups that will do that. So I don't think that we have to worry so much about the cost. The final thing I'll say is that we often worry about voter education, whether or not voters will adapt to this. And when we say that this is too confusing a system for voters, we really underestimate our voters. First off, I'll say that Americans love ranking things. It's one of our national pastimes. There was a whole website, BuzzFeed, that succeeded on the model of the top 10 list. But seriously, I do think that voters are very adaptable, and we underestimate how many voters already underparticipate in the system we have now, because it has, first off, multiple elections, right? We have primary elections in which we know that turnout is lower than in general elections, even though the most important decisions are usually made in those primary elections. Primary elections also carry a cost, and so by eliminating the primary, by using a ranking model, you can lower the cost of elections. But I just want to end on this note by saying that when we talk about the citizens who are confused by a change in process, we aren't talking about the citizens who have opted out of the process we have now, the ones who look at the options before them and the system they have and feel their choices are too binary, not reflective of the diversity of opinion that they'd like to see on the ballot, and decide to stay home or sort of not participate in the beautiful opportunity for self-government that we're here participating in right now. And so I've made my case for that recommendation, but I stand behind all of the recommendations in that report. I really think I'm not just saying this out of self-flattery, but it was an exceptional group of people I was lucky to serve with who did their best to find ways to improve a charter that is already quite strong, so thank you to the framers of the Third Amendment Charter. But we don't have so much time before ballot proposals have to go forward, right? It's January now, blink twice and it'll be May. And so as you consider your agenda for the year, I do beseech you to consider those recommendations. Does anyone know what that buzzer is? Am I out of time? Thank you.
Thank you. And just following up on that, in terms of the filing deadline, so we had, when we had the presentation about those recommendations, and it's not just the ranked choice voting, there's other recommendations there too, including the redistricting process, which I think is worth taking up. So as we went through those discussions in terms of timing, one of the things that we sort of looked at was when would we want to put these before voters? So wanting to make sure that we have time to do the educating to voters about what it is they're voting on if we put them forward. And the other element, one of the other elements was putting them before voters in a general election, because as Mr. Jackson talked about, it'd be the most democratic to offer these in a general election when we have more of the population actually voting, and potentially more of the same voters who feel disenfranchised with their binary choices might actually show up in a general versus in a primary. So with that in mind, our target that we discussed before was to get them on the November general election of this year, so 2026. And the deadline to do that will be September 4th to get them to Board of Elections. That would be the absolute deadline. It's not necessarily advisable to be turning in our homework at 5 o'clock on that Friday. So, and then keeping in mind that council has a tradition of recessing in August, that we would want to probably get that done before the August recess. So, as always, I'm working backwards from our deadline, just putting that out there that is on the radar, and hope to get that scheduled once we get through the City Hall and bands discussions up next. So, all right, so that's everyone we have signed in to speak. Did anyone else want to give public comment? No? Okay. Before I go to announcements from council members, I just want to acknowledge our public works crews out there today. In the freezing cold, I got multiple compliments from residents about the particularly refuse and recycling today. Really appreciate that. And also our public safety crews out there in this inclement weather. Appreciate it. Well, some of the public safety crews. But some of you were in very hot weather recently too, and so we appreciate the help with those fires. All right, announcements from council members. Councilmember Strebig, you got a calendar update for us?
Got a calendar update. 1/27, a week from today, is International Holocaust Remembrance Day internationally. Important for us to continue to reflect on what happened there. And also looking forward to celebrating Black History Month in February. Thank you.
Thank you. Other announcements from council members? Announcements from the administration? I did see, I believe there's, and I see Director Barry's not here, but that we are having cities partnering on a renters forum. I think that's Thursday, the 26th. Check the city's social media, but I believe there is an upcoming event at Cove, Renters Forum. Okay, no further business to come before council. Without objection, we are adjourned.